Hello viewers, my name is Jordan Golson and I have come all the way to Milan, Italy to try out the brand new Maserati Grecale, and it competes with things like the BMW X3, Mercedes-Benz GLC, and most critically the Porsche Macan. So it's a mid-sized luxury SUV, and that is actually the fastest growing and the largest luxury vehicle segment. So Maserati saw the writing on the wall and said, okay, we need to build one of those because people seem to really want them. Now Maserati is happy to admit that they are the last of the luxury car companies to launch a car in this segment, and that doesn't mean that they don't want to be the best as well. They had lots of best in class when they were showing it off, including best in class cargo space and rear seat legroom and some things like that. And they also noted that they have the highest standard horsepower in the class. So there are three flavors of the Grecale. There's the GT, that's the base model, that has a 2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder engine making 300 horsepower, and it is a mild hybrid, which is interesting, 48-volt system. And the Modena, the mid-tier, uses the exact same engine and powertrain, but makes 30 more horsepower. So 300 horsepower for the base GT, 330 for the Modena, though you do get some other stuff like nicer suspension with semi-active dampers, things like that. And then this one is the Trofeo, which has a twin-turbo 3-liter V6, and boy does it purr. So, needless to say, the Trofeo is the sporty model, and this one's got pretty much every option box checked well into the $80,000 range. So the Grecale is going to enter an interesting space because they say they're not going to compete on volume. They don't want to sell more than the BMW X3 or sell more than Porsche, which they probably couldn't do anyway. There's just too much success in that chunk of the market. But instead, Maserati is going to do what Maserati does, and they're just going to come in and sell cars to people who care about design and performance and technology and things like that. And I think they're going to be pretty successful at it. This actually is really pretty. When it first was introduced, I didn't love it as much in pictures as I do in person. As always with Maserati, design is at the core of this vehicle. The trident at the front, it's got this beautiful front grille, but then every little curve and muscular sculpted line is absolutely beautiful. The car looks muscular, it looks engaging, it looks fast even when it's standing still, and it has an absolutely beautiful paint job. This one is this gorgeous yellow, which is also matched here on the interior with this yellow contrast striping, things like that. It's very nice. Now, I do have to say there are only so many ways to draw a crossover, and this is no exception, and if you look at it from the side, it does have a whiff of the Porsche Macan and the BMW X3. There's one right over there, and boy, from the side it sure looks the same. But there's only so many ways to draw a crossover, and Maserati has done a very good job of separating this from the crowd. Just the way all the lines are, it just looks flowing and smooth and muscular and powerful. It's really good on the outside. And then you come to the inside. 12.3-inch dash cluster here, a 12.3-inch touchscreen here controlling the stereo and the nav and car controls, things like that. It does support wireless CarPlay and Android Auto. They've done some interesting things because there's also this 8-inch touchscreen down here, and this controls all of your climate things and a couple other modes as well. So I can change the temperature here up and down, no temperature knob. Controls here to change the suspension up and down. You can control the headlights from here. You can control the seat bolsters, whether the side bolsters move in and out from here. It's an interesting screen. It's got all this stuff. And there are actually pretty much 0 hard buttons here except for the PRND buttons, which are up here. Great big thing. And they almost disappear into the console. They had to point out to me where it was. I do wish there was a physical volume knob, but it's over here and it's a touch up and down, and they said it's actually designed to be near the passenger because on the steering wheel I have volume up and down buttons right here. And so you have a bunch of screens, and this one up here is the smallest one. That holds the clock, and there's a couple other modes it can go into, like a compass and a stopwatch if you're going on the track, something like that. And so what they're trying to do is to take all this technology and put the Maserati touch on it and make this a car that does good performance, a car that has great design, a car that has great technology, and then make that into something competitive. And so this dash cluster screen, for example, is really interesting. It's got a little cutout at the bottom. It's not a perfect rectangle like most of these screens would be. And so what that means is you can have it lower on the dashboard. And I wouldn't have noticed it if they hadn't pointed it out, except I just would have thought, oh, that's a nice placement of the screen. But it's because of that cutout, they can have it lower over the steering column. Here on the steering wheel, you have a couple of cool things. One, it feels really nice, but two, you have the start-stop button over here, and then on the right side, you have the drive mode selector, and in the middle, there's a button that adjusts the suspension because this has semi-active dampers, and so I can press it and make it into sport mode, and that firms it up, or I can press it again and makes it a little bit softer, which is better for the Italian roads that we have around here. Turn the knob and you've got a bunch of driving modes. I've got Comfort, GT, which is like a little sportier, and then you have Sport, which is a lot sportier, and then Corsa, which is Italian for track, and that puts it in sort of the most ferocious mode, turns off all the driver assists, changes the display to show what the turbo's doing, how much torque you're making. It gives you a G meter, all kinds of stuff, and it holds your shifts for a very long time, and you can use the paddles to shift. And then if I want to get out of it, I can just press D again, and it puts it back in drive. The base GT version starts around $65,000. There's a launch edition Modena, and you can go to Maserati's website and place an order. They'll route you to a dealer, and you can order it, and it'll be out starting this fall. About $78,000 for the middle Modena trim. So Maserati was eager to say that not only do they have an electric version of this coming, but they are still investing into new internal combustion engines as well, which is interesting because all anyone else wants to talk about is, oh, how great our electrics are. And I kind of wish they were releasing the electric one now, but that's coming out next year with a few little changes here and there. They gave us a briefing this morning, and there's a ton of info from it that's interesting. They have switched to a new ordering system for their dealerships. Before, basically, Maserati would decide what cars to ship to America, and then the dealers would just have to get whatever they decided to ship them, whether customers wanted it or not. Now dealers are going to order directly to get whatever their customers want in the dealership. They talked a lot about the vehicle dynamics control module, which is basically something that keeps performance up by adjusting things like the brakes and shift points, things like that. And they said rather than just relying on the brakes to hold back power, it's going to integrate the engine, torque, power output, and brakes to allow you to use the extreme drive modes like Sport and Corsa, even on slippery roads, and adapt the power to the condition. They are going to offer an extensive customization package if you want to get custom colors or interior design or change the color of the leather, things like that, through their Maserati Fuori something. Their lead designer said, "We don't design cars for a 2-year lease contract. We want it to still look good in 10 or 20 years. And he did say, design is secondary. The primary thing is performance and technology. So I think the design of balance and technology is really what's interesting here. You've got the lovely leather here and the yellow stitching that matches the exterior of the car, but then you've got all these metal bits and you've got carbon fiber. It feels upscale, but it also feels a little bit different. It doesn't feel like a Porsche. It doesn't feel like a BMW. It feels like a Maserati. It feels Italian. It feels a little different, a little unusual. Inside the cabin here, you have an enormous double-pane panoramic sunroof. On the seats, you have the yellow Trident. The rear seats are actually quite spacious and very comfortable back there, and they say it's got the best legroom in its class. Up here, you've got some storage. You've got a little bin for your phone, and it's got a wireless phone charger, and since it has wireless CarPlay and Android Auto, if you don't want to use their nav system, which I wouldn't blame you if you didn't, you can put that there, and it'll all connect. In here, you've got this little bin that's got some USB ports in it, and you can put your wallet or whatever, and you have some cup holders, and I really like that they haven't put a lid on here that you're just going to leave open. And here is the enormous Maserati key. This thing's massive and heavy. This makes a statement. The driving experience really does change switching between the drive modes, especially with the active air suspension that this guy has. I can press this button on here and change the ferocity of the suspension, and there's actually controls over here to adjust the ride height as well, but it changes based on your drive modes, conditions, things like that. You can go into off-road mode, for example, and it'll lift it up. There is some stuff in here I don't love. This big touchscreen, it's just going to be a fingerprint magnet. I wish they'd given it a volume knob. I wish they'd given it knobs to change the temperature and things. But at the end of the day, it's not a huge deal, and, you know, it kind of looks cool. People are going to be excited about having all the zillions of different screens, and what really counts is what's under the hood and the noises that come out of the back. The Trofeo, 524 horsepower, 0 to 60 in 3.8 seconds, and it does it. This thing is such a hoot to drive, and it makes such a terrific noise. And yeah, this is the one with the big engine and all the horsepower, but even the lower trims still have 300 and 330 horsepower, plenty of oomph in those as well. But if you want the best, get the best. Like so many cars in the luxury segment, it's going to be an emotional decision which one you want. Is this way better than the Porsche? No. Is this way better than the BMW? No. Is the BMW way better than this? No. Which one do you want? Which one speaks to you? It's sort of like, which supercar do you want to buy? Do you want passion and history and heritage? We'll go for Ferrari. Do you want to be loud and brash and have exciting doors that go up like this? Then get a Lamborghini. If you want something super technical and engineered, then you're going to get a McLaren. It's the same thing with this. If you want something precise and German, get a Porsche. If you want something that has a bit more soul, you're going to get this. Now, it checks all the boxes for the competition. It's got the right price, it's got the right performance, it's got the right design and style and everything else. If you're looking for a mid-size luxury SUV, this is going to do the job. The Grecale will be in US dealers starting this fall, but for now, I'm here in Milan and I'm going to take a rip on the highway. If you enjoyed my review of the Grecale, click here to watch this other video that I think you'll like. Other than that, drive safely.